The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios.
Hi, this is Mia Mosinzia, also known as Mia No Time for Love. Check out my latest book, Missing, available in print and ebook formats on Amazon.
It's now time for The Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios and sponsored by international award-winning author Mia Mosinzia of Missing. The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on over 40 podcast platforms, as well as hamiltonradio.net, Diamonds FM, and themikewagnershow.com. We can be heard in over 100 countries, featuring over 1,000 well-known and amazing guests throughout the globe. And named one of the top 100 global podcasts in the New York Weekly Times, Hollywood Entertainment News, Los Angeles Weekly Times, Apple, and Chartable. So sit back and relax and enjoy another great episode of the award-winning Mike Wagner Show.
Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960, or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention Mike Wagner Show, get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Mosinzia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Mosinzia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is an illusion and those you love will be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Mosinzia has garnered great reviews and even loved and endorsed by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassie, Forbes, Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today. 4 Goes Missing by Mia Mosinzia, available on Amazon. Also, check out The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com and over 40 podcast platforms heard in 110 countries, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartradio. Also, Anchor FM, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon, Audible, Apple Music, and now playing on hamiltonradio.net, Oldies FM, Diamonds Radio, and more. Take The Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to The Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Follow The Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com and check out The Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw-up pillows, tote bags, hoodies, baseball gear, makes great gifts 24/7 for family, friends, and loved ones. Go to Amazon.com and check out The Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Mosinzia for great books like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles. Also T-shirts, pop sockets, hoodies, and phone cases, and more. Amazon.com/Mia Mosinzia. Check it out today. I'll support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, themikewagnershow.com. You can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com at the Mike Wagner Show. Make sure you do so today. We're here with a terrific lady from the Tampa, Florida area who's worked in marketing and public relations throughout her career. She's also a host of the Business Edge radio show, and she appears as a guest on numerous programs throughout the country. She teaches marketing and publicity techniques at group seminars, and she's also been featured in One Word That Will Change Your Life, and also Credibility Nation, and also received numerous awards, including the 2018 Spotlight Award by Dustin Burlinson Seminars. And of course, she's got a new book called Publicity on Steroids, How to Launch and Maximize Dynamic Publicity Campaign. And live, ladies and gentlemen, from the Plus Studios in beautiful downtown Tampa, the amazing multi-talented marketing and public relations guru and the author of the book, Publicity on Steroids. Ladies and gentlemen, the multi-talented Freda Drake. Freda, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Mike. You make me sound so impressive.
Well, it's because I put steroids in it. That's why. I mean, it's the good kind. So, yes.
Absolutely.
That's right. And you've been doing it for quite some time. And it's pretty much throughout your whole career. You got to say that. You're also host of the Business Edge radio show. You appeared as a guest on a number of stations. You also teach marketing and publicity techniques at group seminars. You've been featured in One Word That Will Change Your Life and Credibility Nation. You also received numerous awards as well, too, including the 2018 Spotlight Award. And of course, so we'll talk about your book, Publicity on Steroids, How to Launch and Maximize Dynamic Publicity Campaigns. And speaking of publicity and more, and before getting all that, tell us how you first got started.
Well, I actually had a mother. My mother passed away 2 years ago, but she was very interested in marketing. And the first book she ever read was actually a book that was anti-marketing called The Hidden Persuaders by Vance
Really?
And yeah, and she was scandalized by it at first. She grew to really, I think, enjoy it, but it was a major scandalous book out of the 1960s, and a lot of people were shocked to hear how marketing firms could manipulate the masses to buy things, and there's this fine line, I think, between manipulation and simple selling, and let's face it, a lot of times people do cross over that. So she had the book on her bookshelf, and as I was growing up, I was just a huge reader, and I would regularly run out of material, couldn't get to the library in time, and would go stir crazy. So that's when I would go to my parents' bookshelves and dig around and find something new to read. So one day I came across her paperback, and I read it, and it was eye-opening. It was really amazing to learn how people could be so easily manipulated. But also, I think ultimately, even though it was more of a negative book in a lot of ways, it sparked that interest that I've always had since then in both psychology and marketing, and ethics too, because there's always this fine line, as I said, where you have to be ethical in what you sell, but you also want to be presenting the best way you can, putting your best foot forward. It's like a beautiful woman on a first date. She can either choose to wear makeup and the right clothes, or she can, look kind of schlumpy, wear sackcloth, wear no makeup, hasn't washed her hair in a couple of days. And obviously she's not selling herself properly. So there are ways you can sell yourself or your products that are more effective than other ways. And that's what really started me on my journey. So after that, I actually dabbled in sales management and selling, in addition to marketing and PR. And I found the three were really intertwined. And although marketing and publicity are my passion, and that's what I've done most of my life, I will say that I discovered, both in being a selling manager and also being in sales, that they are very dependent on the proper marketing and the proper publicity. And so that's what really led me to write the book.
And what was that one precise moment that simply influenced you into what you're doing for the rest of your career?
That's a really good question. Nobody's asked me that. I would say that it probably was when and I won't say which political party, but I was involved in politics and did work as a spin doctor for a political party. I learned that politics is very much like watching sausage being made. You really don't want to be in the middle of it.
Yes, ground. It's like, you brought up sausage. That's one of my favorites. So I don't know the details, but I still love sausage no matter how they make it.
Exactly. And sometimes we love something more if we don't see the process. And so I found it was really interesting, and I have some fascinating stories about when I was doing spin control. But during that time, I think that's when I really got a good taste for it. I had started out actually as a young mother and got involved almost accidentally in politics, and I was shocked to find my voice actually mattered, and I was pretty much sure I was done with it when I was contacted by a political candidate who was running, who asked me to represent him and help him get his message out there. And that's really, really how it all began. And that's when I realized how exciting it could be.
And when you talk about spin control and the things you did, especially in the political arena and some of the things, what are some of the examples that you use for spin control? Or like events or anything like that?
Well, when it came to politicians specifically, the biggest thing I learned was from another woman who had already been a very seasoned publicity professional. And she had been in the business many years before I got involved. And she invited me to lunch one day and told me that the most important thing really was to find out, to let them know if you have any skeletons in your closet, that you need to talk to your publicist. Treat them like a priest, but tell them in advance, because every publicist is going to need what could be coming, and they need to know what's coming. They need to have their response ready for it. So I took her advice to heart, and I did that with my politicians. And I found inevitably the vast majority of them had secrets they didn't want anybody to know. And the problem was they wouldn't want to let us know either. And so those of us in publicity still would often find ourselves adrift, trying to figure out, scrambling quickly to give an answer for something that we should have been already privy to and should have been prepared for, and we weren't. It was just, it was sometimes quite disappointing because you get to learn that all your heroes have clay feet, every last one of them. And if you're looking at the Amber Heard, Amber Heard.
It is Amber Heard,
trial.
yes. And I've heard all kinds of bottom wins.
Yeah. And if you watch that, you see, again, even our heroes have clay feet. I'm sure there are a lot of kids who grew up watching the Pirates of the Caribbean who've been somewhat disappointed. So the key is to have a good publicist that can minimize the damage and maximize the benefits.
And also you talk about the book as well, too, as some of the things that were illegal back in the days in the 60s. What are some of the things that have changed from the time the book came out in the 60s until today? It's like you have some of the things that were illegal in the 60s. What are some of the things that became legal, today? And then things that were legal back in the 60s are now considered illegal.
Oh, that's a good question. I would say that it's not so much a question of illegal, but more a question of best practices. When it comes to the things that Vance Packard had condemned in his book was one of the things that he was really fixated on was the use of color in marketing. He felt it was very unfair to use color to position your product better. And so he went into color in marketing, and it got me so interested in it that I ended up writing an article that was published many years ago on how color is used in marketing. But instead of seeing it as a disadvantage or as being something sneaky, again, I see it as putting makeup on that beautiful girl who's going out for the first date. Do you want to put your dish detergent in an ugly box, a generic white box that just says dish detergent, or do you want to make it look presentable and enticing? So a lot of it, in his case, was more on the marketing side of things, not so much publicity. But again, they can intertwine. I would say that that he felt that there was another story that he told that I always found was very, very interesting, and I wrote about that at the end of my book. One of the stories that he wrote about was the California Prune Board, and they had declining sales because, of course, everybody assumed that prunes were laxatives, and it had become so synonymous with laxatives that nobody would ever touch prunes unless they needed it for laxatives, and their sales were going down. So what they did is they hired an advertising firm that turned their whole image around, presented them as being a delicious alternative. I believe they were putting out recipes for it. They rebranded it. I think that they were rebranded from the word prunes to perhaps dried plums, if I'm not mistaken.
I heard something about that. Yes.
Yeah, and it was just very, very effective campaign that came out of it. And again, he was kind of censorious about that, but I thought that was so fascinating. I asked my mom to get me some prunes. I'd never had any before, and after I had them, I realized why there was perhaps some association with some of the negative effects. But I also found out they were actually very delicious. And again, I think that was very much a tribute to the advertisers at the time who were able to reposition the product.
You also talk about color earlier as well, too, like with having colors being like, influencing as well, too. Of course, everybody knows about red being aggressive, flashy, blue is being cool and calm, and yellow, sunshine, happy and everything. What is the one unique color that just has like the most unique property? It's like, take a unique color. What does it really stand for? What was the one color that really just amazing? Like, I didn't know that could do this.
Yellow. You mentioned yellow, and it is yellow. Yellow at one time was believed to be one of the biggest irritants there was. And so there was even a study that turned out to have been incorrectly conducted. So it was revised later on. But there was a study initially that claimed that more married couples had fights in yellow kitchens, that yellow was an irritant. You should use yellow sparingly. For instance, Post-it notes has yellow, and so yellow stands out with Post-it notes.
You thank 3M for that, by the way. So
exactly. And yellow at the time was considered to be a big negative. So you were not supposed to be using it much in advertising. However, since then, they've gone back and they've revisited the data. They've done some more studies. And it does turn out that, as you say, yellow is a sunny and inviting color. It does not have the negative associations that it originally had. The other two colors that are interesting are Pepto-Bismol pink and a baby blue. They found that, in prisons and in hospitals where they treat people with mental illness, that those two colors are very calming. They have a very calming effect. And so they began to paint both the interiors of jails and hospitals with pink and that pale blue. And they found that, yes, fights actually decreased, agitation decreased. So I would not think to paint a room Pepto-Bismol pink. And at the time I thought,
Pepto-Bismol, that would make me sick.
Right? But it seems to have that effect. Yeah, so it's a pretty incredible use of the color, and I think it shows you how powerful color can be.
Mm-hmm. And very powerful indeed too. And there's also another concept where this most important thing sells, but does it really? We'll talk about in the book with Publicity on Steroids. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for early needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, time to give official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those you love will be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has garnered great reviews and even loved and endorsed by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassie, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today for Goes Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com on over 40 podcast platforms heard in 110 countries. Take us with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com and check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia for great books, merchandise, and more. Also support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, themikewagnershow.com. You can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com at the Mike Wagner Show. Make sure you do so today. We're here with a terrific lady who's worked in marketing and public relations throughout her career. She's the author of Publicity on Steroids, How to Launch and Maximize Dynamic Publicity Campaign here on the Mike Wagner Show, author Freda Drake. And before we talk about the one thing where they say it sells, but according to your book, it doesn't, you can just also explain to your audience the difference between publicity and marketing.
Thank you. That's a brilliant question because it's one of the biggest areas of confusion that I've run into. And I know that when I started in my career, somebody had said to me that they were different, and I was shocked. I thought, the same thing. They're not. The main difference is that publicity is something that you get through earned media. Earned media meaning you cannot buy your way into it, or at least you shouldn't be able to. So that would include everything from the New York Times to maybe your local newspaper. It's getting the attention of journalists or other people who are interested in speaking to you, like you, Mike, and being able to engage with those people and give them the value that they need for their shows or for their articles. Whereas marketing is something you pay for where you can openly advertise a product. So if I was going to be marketing something, I'd be marketing my book, Publicity on Steroids, and I would probably buy an ad that put the cover on the ad and told you, maybe a few excerpts from the reviewers, gave you the price and told you where to buy it. But when it comes to interviews, it is more offering yourself as an expert, and most publicity is interviews. Now, it also is positioning yourself correctly. And some of that goes more into public relations. And there within publicity, there are divisions, and there are teams that do just public relations work. And then there are teams that do more publicity work. Public relations is a way to, again, be a spin doctor, fix your celebrity or your politician's messaging, make sure that they present their best foot forward. And if something happens, you go ahead and mop up the mess afterwards and try to make it as palatable as you can. And I tend to specialize in publicity. I tend to not do much public relations, although I can.
Mm-hmm. And what is your favorite among, if there's one thing you would prefer, would it be public relations, marketing, sales? If you had to choose which one would you rather do and why?
They all have their charms. I think for anybody in sales can tell you that if it's done right, it makes a tremendous amount of money. But public relations, the others, they can be successful as well. But when it comes to public relations and marketing, that's where the creativity comes into play. And that's what appeals to me. And I think beyond, both of them take a lot of mental acuity. You have to be able to think outside of the box. But public relations is, or at least publicity, is still my favorite thing to do. Public relations, you sometimes do a lot of damage control, but with publicity, you are presenting your client, you are getting your client the coverage they deserve, you are giving your client advice. It's very interactive. To me, it's a combination of creativity and public service as well as service to the client. And it's what gives me the most satisfaction.
Mm-hmm. And also too, there's a couple other types of marketing. You got the charitable, which is like, in a way, it's like, tied to charity with the brand and everything. And there's also guerrilla marketing. And how can the charitable, be good with it? And also the pros and cons between with the guerrilla marketing, what's good and what's bad about it?
Well, charities are really hampered by budgets. It's tough for them, so they often have to do it themselves. It's one of the reasons that I'd like to get my book into the hands of a lot of charities. Being as I've worked in the charity business in the past myself, I worked for a couple nonprofits, and I know the challenges. And usually, you're a one-man band, so you need all the help you can get. And I would say with guerrilla marketing, it's a mixed bag. When it first came out, which I think was the late 80s, I was very excited by it. I remember reading the first book, I think, ever written on guerrilla marketing, and was just excited by the possibilities, especially, again, for nonprofits. So I've used guerrilla marketing, and I've used it effectively, but I've also used the same technique twice in two different scenarios and found that at one time it was highly successful, and the second time it was just dismal. And some of it is a difference of time. Some of it is a difference of place and product. So guerrilla marketing is a mixed bag. Sometimes it can work and sometimes it can't. And it has to be done with a deft touch, where you end up looking like that horrible person that Vance Packard wrote about in the 60s. You look like you're being deliberately manipulative. And that's not a good look for anybody.
Mm-hmm. And what's the hottest trend when it comes to marketing and public relations right now, especially marketing?
Hottest trend is probably TikTok. And that really encompasses both of them. TikTok, whether you like it or not, is here. And I wrote about the pros and cons in my book. And I would even go further to say that if you are a parent with a child on TikTok, you need to be watching very carefully, much more carefully than you probably think you need to be watching. But that being said, TikTok is a great way to exchange ideas. It is revolutionary in its algorithms. It is extremely good at directing you to content that you will prefer. It studies you. It knows what you want, sometimes better than what you know yourself. As a result, there is a lot of dialogue out there on TikTok. You can find any subject, any topic you want. It's a great way to get your opinions and ideas out there, but there is a lot of clamor. There's a lot of voices. So you still have to be able to position yourself. I would recommend, if you do use TikTok and you want to be presenting a product or an idea, that you stick predominantly with a particular topic, and you can speak on variants of that topic, but you don't want to be all over the place. You don't want to talk about politics one day and maybe orange juice the next. You want to be focused on what your particular message is. You need to stick with it. But TikTok is very exciting. It's kind of the wild, wild west right now of both public relations and marketing.
And of course, speaking of subjects and being the wild, wild west, you heard the old saying a long time ago, sex sells. But then in your case, it's like, does it really sell or does it not?
Isn't that interesting? I grew up hearing, of course, sex sells. And I would say that became just such a truism that nobody really thought too much about it. But recently we're seeing a trend, and I think it's being driven by the millennials, who are really a major market now, and also Gen Z, and they just don't find that appealing. They find it, they find anything that's overtly sexual as being somewhat off-putting. They want to be appealed to differently than what the other generations did. So you can't just, there's still absolutely a market for the bikini glad girl on the Harley motorcycle calendars, but there's also, when it comes to certain products, there needs to be some repositioning perhaps in the market, especially now that you're trying to appeal to a younger demographic. The boomers are still a very powerful demographic. Gen X is sandwiched between the boomers, and the millennials are the smallest of the generations. The next biggest generation, the bigger generation with a lot of buying power now, are the millennials, and they think differently.
That's rather interesting too. And of course, you got the small businesses out there trying to get publicity. And what's the more common mistakes when it comes to, trying to get publicity, and what can they learn from it?
Well, I think one of the biggest mistakes, and my pet peeve, are the small business owners who think that if they know one thing, they know everything. And it's an easy trap for anybody to fall into, really. We all make assumptions. But I have worked with brilliant doctors and also very common sense blue collar workers, who may have opened up their own shop for the first time. Maybe they're opened up a garage. But they all think they know better than they really do because they're very good in that one area. And also, marketing and publicity look so deceptively easy, and they sound easy. You hear all of these viral marketing stories. And by the way, there's no such thing as viral marketing. I write about that in my book, because viral marketing is just a lot of hard work to get you there. It just looks viral because it comes on your radar late.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's been
Yeah.
a process for a while. And so when it comes to big business or small business, anybody who's at the top generally tends to think they got there because they know a little bit about everything. And it becomes a challenge for the publicist or the marketing department, because you have to very politely tell them that you were hired for a reason and that you have the credentials that they actually do not have. And while you can't tell a plastic surgeon how to do a beautiful facelift, he also should not be telling his team how they should be doing the publicity and marketing. And I think that's a challenge, and it's difficult to convey because you don't want the owners to be turned off by that. But they also need to step back and value their personnel, I think, a little bit better than they do. And I think it's very common across all sectors. I hear it constantly from my colleagues.
Mm-hmm. And also, too, another common marketing technique, this has been done for a long time, is giveaways like pens, keychains, balloons, coffee mugs, T-shirts, and everything else. And are they considered worth it, or has that changed?
That is a tough one. It's tough to find a lot of data on, but from what I could do, I did a lot of research, and the best I could come up with is that it is a waste of money. And that kind of goes against, again, the standards that we grew up with. I mean, everybody can go to a trade show and they'll hand you a bag and you hold out that bag and you go from one booth to the next, and they'll throw in pens and pads and you name it, and they're hoping you'll go back and use it. But the truth is that very few people actually end up using all those tchotchkes that they get. And what they'll do is they'll pass it on to a friend or throw it in the Goodwill box, or they will pass it to a kid. And they might even use it temporarily for a little bit until they get something better. But I have no evidence, and I've never seen any evidence of any direct sales that correlate to any kind of marketing materials like that. In fact, I think it's more of a waste of money, and you would be better off perhaps buying bags of candy and just taping your business card with candy and handing that out at the trade shows, rather than giving out, other things that people just are not going to want and not going to use.
That's rather interesting as well, too. And in fact, I still have some pens from a couple of trade shows, a little bit of coffee mugs, and things we play, bags, and everything else. And of course, we're continuing with the book with Freda Drake here on the Mike Wagner Show, Publicity and Steroids: How to Launch and Maximize a Dynamic Publicity Campaign. Of course, just tell about how you came up with the name, and what are some other ways you can really launch and maximize a dynamic publicity campaign? What are some of the other ways?
Well, the reason I came up with a name is that I found that I had so many clients that would say to me, all right, what have you got to offer? Because publicity didn't work for me before. I had a campaign, and sometimes it was campaigns with really, really big named publicists or other marketing firms at times. And they would say, but my publicity campaign went nowhere. And I don't see why I would be interested in working with you. And so then I would dig in and I would say, well, why didn't your publicity campaign work for you? And it would always turn out that they hadn't used it. They expected that simply because their name was mentioned, people would be calling you, and yet they got the publicity, they had the interviews, their names, showed up in newspapers, sometimes major newspapers, and they didn't get a single phone call from it. But it's because they didn't use it. And so then the real question is, how do you use your publicity? How do you put that publicity on steroids? So that's why I wrote the book, because publicity in itself is effective, but when it's used in marketing materials, when it is conveyed properly to your selling staff, that's when it becomes powerful. Your salespeople need to be kept up on what's going on. They need to see what's happening and what you're putting out. And your marketing department does as well. Your marketing department should be using all that publicity to add validity to what you're selling and what you're doing. that is how you use publicity properly. People hear your name, but they need to hear it multiple times to really be interested in buying. And I believe that, and I'd have to double check on this, but it used to be that the average consumer would have to hear your name or your product 7 times before they were willing to pull the trigger.
I did hear something about that. And that's why you hear in ads like, 1-800-555-1212, and they say it like 7 times. Sometimes they say it so fast. And then they attach like this side effects, including it goes like about just as fast as saying the phone number. And I remember that. And, people actually do, call that number, or sometimes it's, you hear it once or twice, you write it down. It's like, when's that commercial going to come on? So I remember that tactic, and it's just so amazing too. And it's like, you can dial 1-800-555-1212, but I don't know what you get. So
exactly right. Yes. Yeah, repetition is magic, and if you are able to use in your advertisement, Mike Wagner as seen in New York Times, or Freda Drake as quoted in the Mike Wagner Show, as seen on TV, and remember all the products as seen on TV, and you'll see that little stamp as seen on TV. It's powerful. People want that validation. They want to know that you're an authority, and it proves you're an authority.
Mm-hmm. And certainly is too. And of course, we'll talk more about the book in just 1 minute. Publicity and Steroids: How to Launch and Maximize a Dynamic Publicity Campaign with Freda Drake. You listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by SonicWeb Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Also brought to you by our official sponsor, The Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia of Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. We'll be back with author Freda Drake of Publicity and Steroids after this time out.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by SonicWeb Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention The Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Hey everybody, my name is Forbes Riley, and I'm an American actress and a TV host. And I was delighted when I got my copy of Missing, which is Extraordinary Relation of Ordinary People based on a real life relationship. It's well written. It's amazing. It talks about a man who has lost his wife and his daughter, and it's very well done. I'm going to highly recommend that you go get your copy of Missing. It is a powerful, exciting read. Mr. Mia Molson-Zia. He is the author of Missing. And I want to give a big shout out and a kiss all the way halfway around the world to my dear friend. Check him out at Mia's website. It's called www.miamotionzea.com. Missing, available on Amazon. Again, I'm Forbes Riley, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Hey, this is Ray Powers, and boy, are you in luck. Right place, right time. Tuned in to The Mike Wagner Show. You heard me.
We're back with author Freda Drake of Publicity and Steroids: How to Launch and Maximize a Dynamic Publicity Campaign here on The Mike Wagner Show. Just a couple of things about your amazing book, and what are some of the challenges that you faced when it came to writing a book, and what do you want readers to get out of it?
Challenges abound, don't they? For instance, we all get those moments when we're writing, even if it's just something short, even if it's an email, you get this moment where you just get this freeze and you think, could I say this better? Could I do it differently? Do I need to rehash this? But I would say sometimes the bigger challenges were what not to put in the book. There are a lot of stories out there to be told. I wanted to make sure that when I wrote the book, that it could be written in a way that everybody could be comfortable with it, and it would make for an easy read. The books that turn me off are all, any kind of advice book can be really dull if it just gives you basic rules and regulations. And sometimes too, if you give a concept, but you don't give an illustration of it, it just doesn't sink in. So what I did is I made sure that I had stories in there. Of course, the names are withheld to protect the innocent and guilty.
Right, that's common sense. Or it's like coincidental, like say Mike Wagner present was in there. That's almost like a coincidence. Or if I write a romance novel, I name a character Freda Drake, it's considered coincidence.
Well, that's true. That's true. But I wanted to avoid any possibilities of such coincidence. Are you still there? Because we froze.
We're good. And I'm sure the Zoom is rolling as well, too, since we're Zooming here. And also, I was just going to ask as well, too, about the book that, what about you, like, putting in pictures or illustrations, and would that be recommended, like, say, someone wants to put out a book, publicity, or anything like that? Because it's pretty much changed throughout the years too, especially with the digital world.
Oh, yes. It depends on the book. And I am actually, this is something I will always tell you if there's something I don't know. This is something that I'm going to now be guessing at. I can't speak as a true authority when it comes to the books themselves. But from what I have seen out there, and I do also work for a publishing company, from what I have seen, I believe that very rarely you need to have illustrations in there unless it is a difficult to understand topic. So if it's something where you need to have, now I'm talking about artistic illustrations. If it comes to stories, I think stories are a powerful tool to get points across. And we know that in the history of mankind, stories have always been used to teach lessons, everything from Aesop's fables to modern day storytelling. And so I have found stories are a powerful way to not just tell people how to behave, but also for me to think about how I want to behave. And that includes stories about bad clients, good clients. I've had clients that are just amazing individuals, just phenomenal human beings that have been so inspirational to me. They've changed my life. And then I've had clients that have also been so absolutely horrifying that they have also changed my life. So illustrations can be quite valuable.
You brought up the fact about good clients and bad clients. What's your favorite client story? It can be good, it can be bad, it can be memorable. It's like, what's your favorite client story? We love to hear this.
I have a couple favorite client stories, so I apologize to all the favorite clients that I'm not including in this, because I do have a couple of them. But my favorite one is Sarah Lee Parrish. Her full name is actually Sarah Lee Gossett Parrish. She is an attorney who, when I first heard of her, she had actually contacted my company saying that she wanted to put out a book of flowers. She was a photographer, and it's hard to publicize an art book unless you're really representing somebody like Clyde Butcher, Ansel Adams. So, and I've had the privilege of being with the company that represented Clyde Butcher, and he was a phenomenal photographer. But with Sarah Lee, she was an attorney. And so I got to talking to her a little bit more, and I was like, I can't really rep that book at this time, but I'd like to hear a little bit more about what you do. And it turned out that she was an attorney who really wanted to grow beyond her boundaries. She was in a firm where she really wasn't being challenged, quite honestly. And I'm sure she left with no bad feelings, but she wanted to expand. And she had decided that in her state, they were about to legalize marijuana, or I should be saying cannabis these days, because I'm understanding that that is not the right term anymore. But
interesting, yes.
She wanted to represent people who wanted to be part of the legal cannabis market. And so she had been following it with a lot of interest. She had been to seminars in California. She had been reading up on the cannabis market and challenges and opportunities. And so I said, well, why don't we go out on that? I mean, you're reading up on it, even if you're not representing anybody at this time. And she was extremely knowledgeable. So I felt very comfortable with that. And that's exactly what we did. And in the end, New York Times flew a photographer out to follow her and a reporter to follow her around for 2 days. She was interviewed coast to coast. She was eventually named as one of the top, I believe it was top 30, but it now might be the top 10 cannabis attorneys in the nation.
Wow.
She is a leading authority. She's absolutely brilliant and very personable, very warm woman, so very easy to work with. So she was a fantastic client because you could put her in an interview anywhere, and she handled herself with grace and dignity and warmth. She ended up leaving the law firm to start her own law firm because there were too many clients for her to handle. And even now she is absolutely swamped, and just loving life. We still stay in touch. And she actually was one of the reviewers of my book.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah. And just tell her, don't let her career go up in smoke. That's how you say.
I will tell her.
We'll certainly do that. We're here with author Freda Drake of Publicity on Steroids, How to Launch and Maximize a Dynamic Publicity Campaign on the Mike Wagner Show. Freda, just a couple more minutes. You've been absolutely fantastic. And what else can we expect from you in 2022 and beyond?
Well, this is a challenge, isn't it? Especially because with the economy, I think we're all facing this challenge. We're all asking ourselves, do I need to do a 360 or 180? Do I need to tweak this a little bit? What's interesting for me right now is that I ended up starting my own firm. And that was simply because I had a live publishing contact me, and a live publishing said, "Hey, we like you, and we want to go ahead and work with you. Can you pull a team together?" So I thought about it for a few minutes, and I had been given offers like that before, and I had turned them down. With my mother's death, I ended up having to change my life a little bit. I sold my house. I moved in to help take care of my father, who's elderly, and so I had not really been able to take anybody up on their offers up until that point. And I thought, what, I can do that. So I did, and I pulled the team together. We started a group, and we are working with clients with that group. But in addition, we're also working with a live publishing, and
Nice.
And so it's actually two different companies. One is my company, one is not. But live publishing was my inspiration for that, and and I have Eric to thank for encouraging me to do that and step out on a limb. And so Alive is actually so exciting to me right now. We are growing together as a business. I'm working with a number of authors from Alive and looking forward to working with some more. And I think that there's a great deal of promise coming from this. The more authors that come our way, the better. And I mean, everybody says the sky's the limit, right? And everybody wants to paint that perfect and beautiful life and sound like they're an incredible success. And I'm not going to lie. I don't prefer to lie to my clients, and I won't lie to anybody else. There's always going to be challenges. There are challenges now. We're still growing. We're still getting our feet wet. But I feel very, very positive about it. Even though the economy is kind of tanking a little bit right now, I'm feeling pretty good.
Yes. Kind of reminds me of going back to the 80s as well, too. Kind of a flashback, and we all been through it. So it's just a little blip in the radar. So
That's right. That's right.
And of course, a couple of things, Freda. Who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
Wow. I would have to say I'm going to bring up somebody that's very unusual now, but her name is Mary Matlin. And also James Carville. So I'm not taking either party's side, but both of them are very, very interesting. And they both were spin doctors for two different political parties from completely opposite sides who fell in love, got married, and lived happily ever after. And they both are highly talented people who did not let personal prejudices get in the way of either their relationship with each other or their relationship with their clients. Both inspirational characters, I would say.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. Love Marlene Matlin and her work. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
Well, if I'm allowed to plug my book, I would say read my book, because whether you're a professional or whether you're just starting, it's got enough data and information in there for you, no matter where you are. You're going to learn something new, whether you're a professional, and you'll hopefully learn a lot new if you're not a professional. So I would highly recommend that.
And there's nothing wrong with that, to be honest with you. There's nothing wrong with it. I like that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say Publicity on Steroids is a good read, and I am always happy to hear from anybody who has any questions for me. So that would be the only other thing I would say is feel free to reach out.
We certainly will do so. We're here with author Freda Drake of Publicity and Steroids, How to Launch and Maximize a Dynamic Publicity Campaign on the Mike Wagner Show. Freda, very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Learned a lot from you. Looking forward to having you again soon. Make sure you keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Love to have you back. Once again, tell us about your upcoming project, what's your website, how do people contact you, or can people purchase or check out your book?
Absolutely. My author site is fredadrake.com. That's fredadrake.com. My book is published by Alive Publishing, and you can find it, as they say, with all major booksellers, but you can absolutely go on Amazon and find it easily enough there. And my name's spelled Freda.
We certainly will do so. Once again, Freda, very big thank you for your time. You've been totally amazing. Looking forward to having you again soon. Make sure you keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Love to have you back. We wish you all the best. You've got a great future ahead of you.
Thank you so much, Mike. Have a wonderful day.
The Mike Wagner Show is powered by Sonic Web Studios. If you're looking to start or upgrade your online presence, visit www.sonicwebstudios.com for all of your online needs. Call 1-800-303-3960 or visit us online at www.sonicwebstudios.com to get started today. Mention The Mike Wagner Show and get 20% off your project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level.
Hey everybody, my name is Forbes Riley, and I'm an American actress and a TV host. And I was delighted when I got my copy of Missing, which is Extraordinary Relation of Ordinary People based on a real life relationship. It's well written. It's amazing. You know, it talks about a man who has lost his wife and his daughter, and it's very well done. I'm going to highly recommend that you go get your copy of Missing. It is a powerful, exciting read. Mr. Mian Moshe Zia. He is the author of Missing. And I want to give a big shout out and a kiss all the way halfway around the world to my dear friend. Check him out at Mia's website. It's called www.miamoshenzea.com. Missing, available on Amazon. Again, I'm Forbes Riley, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Mike Wagner Show. Brought to you by international award-winning author Mia Mohsen-Zia of Missing. And powered by Sonic Web Studios. Be sure to join us again on over 40 podcast platforms. And of course on themikewagnershow.com, hamiltonradio.net, and Diamonds FM. Don't forget to support our program with a generous donation at themikewagnershow.com. Thanks for listening.